Hey folks, it's Owen here again with another battle report. Just a quick apology for not having them up for the past couple of weeks. I've been busy in work, busy at home, busy doing podcasting. It's been taking a lot out of time for Wargaming, so I haven't had any games until last week. So this is actually the first game that I'm going to be doing in a series of games for an event coming up in a hobby shack called Troll Slayer. It's been run by a guy called Brian Leonard, who also helps us out with the podcast. He does the editing and stuff like that, and he's using the Swedish Comp. At the time of this game, it was 2,000 points, but it has now been changed to 2,200. So this army list is probably just going to go out the window. But at least it was a game where I could get used to the system, build an army, and figure out how it all kind of works. Because it's a funny little system, pretty easy to get into though once you start using it. And before I start off, I just want to say thanks to everybody for subscribing, because I've actually gone past 200 subscribers, which is an amazing milestone considering I didn't expect to get many subscribers at all. So thanks everyone for listening and commenting and whatever else you guys do, and let's get on to the game. So we're moving on here to a Troll Slayer prep game. We just did a simple battle line. It's myself and David Houlihan. I'm using my High Elves, of course, and he's using his Dark Elves. It's a 2,000 points Swedish Comp. Okay, so here's my spells for the game. Got myself Fiery Convocation, Walk Between Worlds, Hand of Glory, and I have Soul Quench there, but that was changed out when I got myself Tempest, which wasn't much use in this game, so I just pulled it out and got that instead, which is nice. And onto the high elf deployment. And after I had a look at what Dave was bringing with him, notably just 3 units and no chaff whatsoever, I said, well, I might as well pack it up nice and tight and use the Eagles and my old friends, the Reavers, just to chaff them up a bit, and hopefully I'll be able to pick them off. So what I have here is I've got 15 archers on the left hand side, I've got 18 Phoenix Guard with a full command and the Razor Standard there in the front. I have my Eagle just ahead of those archers. Welcome back, Eagle. And Bolthor, I didn't really know where to put the Bolthor because of all the terrain, so I just popped it behind him because I really wanted to only shoot his Charybdis, and I didn't think anything else would really matter because I was hoping to just kind of lead them on a merry dance. Then beside them I have the 24 Spearmen who have the Banner Discipline, and in there I have my General, who's my Archmage with the Book of Oath and the Talisman of Preservation, and the Noble BSB, who has the Bow and the Shield of Merworm. And then moving on to the right hand side, I've got 18 Swordmasters who have got full command. I have an Eagle there just beside them, a Frost Phoenix just behind the old woods there, and I have my 5 Reavers there on the right who've got Musician, and they have bows as well. So moving on to the Dark Elf deployment, we've got a Charybdis there on the left hand side, cool model, nice little monster. 21 Black Ark Corsairs who've got a full command there beside them. The main bus he has, the main units he has, is 20 Cohen Knights. As far as I know, it's 20, maybe 21. He's got a Master who's his BSB with a Sea Dragon Cloak, Sword of Might, and a Dawnstone, who's also on a cold one, obviously. And Miles Darkblade is in here as well, on a cold one Spite, and he has the Warp Sword of Cain, which does no armor saves, all sorts of weird stuff. But that won't come into play till later on until he goes nuts and turns frenzy. And then he's got another 21 Corsairs there on the right hand side, and they've got his level 2 in there who's got a scroll. She's just there just for the scroll, to be honest with you, and a couple of spells. He did roll up Word of Pain, which I think is probably one of the best spells that they have, considering if you boost it for a 10, you're taking away their strength as well as their initiative and weapon skill. So it's very cool. But that's what he has, so off we go. And so the first turn for the Dark Elves, and everything goes straight forward because that's what they have to do because they're big, massive units. So yeah, that's going to be tough. I just need to keep redirecting these guys and keep them away from my units, because if they go in on the charge, they will decimate me no matter what I have. Even my 4+ ward save Phoenix Guard will get killed. Charybdis is there on the left ahead of the Corsairs as well, so he can get something probably to take down my archers or something like that. For spell casting, he got himself the Word of Pain, the horrible Word of Pain. He did a boosted version and took away some strength as well off my Phoenix Guard, so I definitely don't want to get them into combat too soon until we get rid of that buff. But sure, what can you do? So High Elf turn 1, and let the chaff begin. So we move my Eagle up there on the right hand side, right in front of his Colwyn Knights, just to bring them over that direction, just to slow them down. I have my other Eagle over there on the left hand side. Now I'm pretty sure Cribbers would be able to see him over that because he's flying. Cribbers is a big guy, but if he wants to move over like that, I'd be happy enough to put my Phoenix Guard into the side of him and kill him. So we'll see what Dave is going to do, but that's the whole plan there. Nobody else here is going to move anyway. Okay. So the right hand side, the Frost Phoenix flies over the wood, moves himself over here. I turn him this way just to give him a bit of an option in case he wants to go into the side of somebody or in front of somebody else. And I put the Reavers there because well, that's a good place to put them. I mean, if they have to flee, they're going through a forest, but sure, if I leave a couple of Reavers, I don't really care. And it will pull these other guys out of position, these Corsairs, which means that my Phoenix will get a chance to go into the side of them. And the side wouldn't be too bad because he would only get a couple of attacks on him. I might be able to kill more than 5 and get rid of a rank. But there's always a plan there. Hopefully it'll work out. So Dark Elf turn 2, and just to say, in my magic phase we got rid of his spell scroll but didn't actually cast anything else, and shooting phase we got rid of a couple of wounds off the old Charybdis as well, which is pretty good. But so Dark Elf turn 2, Cold One Knights barrel into the Eagle, who won't be fleeing anywhere, otherwise we'd set them up to all sorts of problems. So he's dead, but so what. Charybdis flies down and goes into the Phoenix Guard, which is kind of surprising because there's a lot of Phoenix Guard in there, tough enough. Although they are -1 strength, so he's got a good chance maybe of doing something here. But even though we're wounded on a 6, we have a chance to kill him first, which is pretty good. For movement then he just moves the other Black Ark Corsairs down a bit. And he's made a little bit of a mistake there on the left because those Corsairs are now so close to the Cold Knights that he can't really reform. So all he can do is either just stay where he is or follow through, but that's what we'll see what happens next anyway. And not much happened in the magic phase, so on to combat, and obviously the Eagle is in trouble. And the Eagle is dead. He couldn't do anything for reforming though, so he just left him where he is, so nothing else he can do. And then onto the combat over here, and Charybdis takes a couple of wounds, but he also takes a couple of my guys with him. Unfortunately we didn't get to kill him, but in my turn we're going to be able to get rid of the Word of Pain, which will be gone because it's a hex, and we should kill this guy, so that's not bad news at all. So High Elf turn 2, and one Eagle is gone, so the other Eagle flies over to take his place, and I just put him there, so just put him in a certain way so I'll be able to move him over a little bit more just to keep him out of my face and hopefully get another turn or two. Frost Phoenix then flies over behind the Corsairs and behind the Cold One Knights, and he should have an arc there to pretty much charge whoever he wants, which is pretty cool. And at least the Frost Phoenix won't be getting into combat in turn 2 like he usually does, which is nice. And then the rest of my movement, I just moved the Reavers slightly over to the left there, just behind the Eagle. I'm kind of giving them an option there to follow through there and maybe get into those guys. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind if he did, because it will leave him over there anyway. I'm probably taking a chance, but I just think this game needs something to kind of liven it up a bit. Anyway, we'll see what happens. So High Elf's magic phase, and just got a nice Hand of Glory off on the Phoenix Guard over here. I did a boosted version just to get some more dice off Dave in case he wanted to spell it, and I mainly wanted to up our weapon skill by at least 1, so I'd be hitting on 3s with a reroll rather than 4s. I just really wanted to make sure I chopped this guy's head off, and not bad, it's all through. And second spell I get off is Fiery Convocation, which wonderfully goes off. Puts it onto these guys. I was hoping to get a wound off his sorceress, and I did just that. I got her, and I got 8 of the guys as well, which is nice. And it keeps it on them for the next turn too, so there won't be casting much on me and be looking to get rid of Fiery Convocation. And Charybdis is dead, as I suspected. Well, as everyone probably would have been suspected, because we had a lot of attacks with a lot of rerolls, and we were probably going to kill him. But always good to see Charybdis getting killed, and always good to see the Elves surviving. So Dark Elf turn 3. Again, Dave charges into the Eagle number 2, so he'll be eating him this turn. As for the other guys, he just moves the Black Ark Corsairs there on the left up further, hopefully to get a charge on one of my units. And the other Corsairs there turn around and move over to the side, which I just showed on this slide instead of the last one. So the Corsairs, they reform and move over. I'm not too sure why he did that, to be honest, but hey, that's what he did. So the magic phase is Word of Pain going off on my unit again. Boosted again. So this time we're -2 strength, which is pretty tough on my unit. But hey, what are you going to do? I don't think I fancy charging anybody with them anyway now. And if he gets his guys in, they'll do some damage. But we still have our 4+ ward, so that's alright. However, he did irresistibly cast it, so we will find out what happens to him in the next slide. And Dave promptly rolls a 5 small blast template. She takes his strength 10. Kaboom! She's toast. So is half the other unit. And at the end of this phase, because he didn't get to dispel Fiery Convocation, a few more are going to be dead as well. So this is not looking good for Dave. And Fiery Convocation does kill a few more. Only 3, but 3 is enough. I mean, I'm not too afraid of this unit at all now. So I think it's time to get rid of them. So combat phase for the Dark Elves, and the eagle is Bones. He's gone, and Dave decides to overrun and try to get into the Reavers, which I thought was a nice thing for me to stick in for a bit of fun, because if he goes through, then he's probably going to kill them obviously as well. Unfortunately for Dave, he doesn't make it. He misses by an inch, and the Reavers will stay alive until next turn to annoy him again. So high elf turn 3. Yes, it is time to annoy those cones again. So I put the Reavers right in front of them. So even if they reform, they're still. Actually, I think I put them there because they wouldn't be able to reform. Let me know if you think that's right. I think that if they do reform, they'll be within an inch. Maybe they can swift reform and just turn around, but I'm not too sure. But anyway, that's where I popped them. And the Frost Phoenix charges into the remnants of the Black Orc Corsairs there at the top as well. So they should be gone by the end of this turn. So the rest of my movement is Swordmasters move up a little bit, just to have a bit of a view on what's going on with the combats over there. Maybe get a charge off on the side of the Coven Knights, which might work out quite well. And I moved the Phoenix Guard up just to protect my Spearman unit there, so he doesn't go barreling into them instead of going into the Phoenix Guard, who are more survivable with their 4+ than the Spearmen are anyway. So sure, if I lose a few Phoenix Guard in one turn, who cares? But it doesn't really matter. So there we go. And magic phase. I fired off a Soul Quench. I think it was only 4 dice I used, but I got 3 6s in those 4 dice, so kaboom, off it goes. I got a huge amount of hits in these guys. 18 hits. Unfortunately, it's only strength 4, which means the result is only 1 dead guy, which is just shy. But sure, what can you do? I mean, they're tough guys. They're supposed to be tough. They're very expensive. So there you are. Unfortunately, I did miscast. So what the hell is going to happen to me here? I only get a 7, which isn't bad because everyone in base to base. So I don't take a wound because I've got my lovely ward save. And one of the guys actually passes his 6+ ward save because I just cast that spell as well. So I only lose 2 spearmen. So hey, 2 spearmen as opposed to 1 Cohen Knight. Fuck it, who cares? Be grand. So high elf combat phase, and actually Fire Convocation gets rid of 1 or 2 of those guys anyway. But combat phase arrives, and Frost Phoenix takes apart everybody but 1 guy. So boo hiss for him for a living. But anyway, he heads off, and Frost Phoenix decides not to pursue. So what I can do here is then I can just reform there, and I have, as far as I have looked at, I have an arc for both units that I can see. So if I do need any help or support, or if he does charge me anywhere, Frost Phoenix will be able to do it. And you know what? This guy is great. Being able to just fly around and pick whoever he supports is just deadly. Dark Elf turn 4, so. And Dave says, yeah, charging your Reavers. And I said, well, you know what? They're going to flee. Because even if you catch them, you'll still be miles away. So fucking off you go, lads. So they fly off. His guy's going trying to catch me. I get a 10. He gets a 9. So poor Dave doesn't even get anywhere near me. I think we actually moved him too far here because he failed the charge. Yeah, I think we moved him way too far here. But so what? He doesn't lose any guys in dangerous terrain. And my guys flee. So there you go. So Dark Elf, other movement, and then his Corsairs declare a charge on my archers, who stand and shoot, kill 1 guy, and then he fails his charge. So nothing really happens there from there. And now, because Word of Pain is gone, we're going to go in there and we're going to chop him up. On the right hand side, then his other guy doesn't rally, and he just moves off a little bit. So my turn. Well, David, absolutely no magic, no shooting. So straight into my turn 4. Phoenix Guard and Frost Phoenix both charge into these guys, and that should be the end of these fuckers. And good news for us. Good to see them dead. And over here then again, the old Reavers turn into Chaff Mania. They reform, rally, and they turn around and put themselves there. Now, I think I'm still an inch away from this guy, so what happens later on, I suppose, spoiler alert, what happens later on, he swift reforms and moves back the other direction. Would he have been able to swift reform if he's so close? I'm not sure. Who cares? It was only a friendly game. But if it is a tournament game, which it will hopefully be in the next month and a half, we'll have to keep an eye on that sort of stuff. So if you've got any ideas, or if you know the actual rule and you have done it wrong, please let us know. That'd be great. Thanks. So moving on to the rest of the High Elf movement, the Sword Masters just move themselves up a little bit just to give themselves another angle. I think they're probably going to... The only unit that's going to be left after this is going to be the Colwyn Knights. So these guys need to have a nice angle. Make sure to get into combat. I moved the Spearmen a little bit as well, just to give them another angle as well. Maybe I get the Reaver Bow shooting off and killing their 1 or 2, hopefully. Archers moved up a bit as well, mainly just to take a shot at the lone guy, because I'm sick and tired of seeing him running around the place. And that's it. And that's what they do. Archers kill the little lone guy, and that's the end of him. Kaboom. Onto my combat, because I don't think my magic was very good. Phoenix Guard and the Frost Phoenix are in here, and things don't look very good for these guys. And they certainly aren't. We kill every single one of them, and we only lose 1 guy in return. That's pretty cool. That's very, very cool. That's very powerful. And then we reform and look straight over at the guys where we're going into next. The only people we have left, and it's going to be very important to get this going fairly soon, because it's getting late in the day for this sort of shit. So Dark Elf turn 5, and the spoiler alert comes true. Dave swift reforms with his unit, and moves back over in that direction to get himself into a charge for his last turn. So that should be quite interesting. Again, if we made a mistake, let us know, but if not, fucking it doesn't really matter anyway. So he has absolutely no shooting or magic, so straight on to High Elf turn 5. And of course, Chaff Extraordinaires, the Reavers, and I checked this with Matt just to make sure. I checked this with a few guys just to make sure that I was doing the movement correctly. And I had enough room. We went into single file and we moved across. We marched across the difficult terrain right in front of him. So we took a drainage terrain and lost a guy. Who cares? It's only a Reaver. And we got right in front of him, and we're going to give him a pain in the ass again. What this should do is it should set it up for a nice charge for me. It just depends how I work it out. So we'll see how it goes. And the remainder of my movement then, the Frost Phoenix flies up there to the top, so we can get myself a nice bird's eye view of what's going on. I do like the old shadows there, the Frost Phoenix as well. It looks pretty cool. Down at the middle we have the Phoenix Guard, who I moved up and I measured it out and I said, you know what, I'm going to give you a chance to overrun here. So I'm going to give you a 10. Now, I didn't want to give him any more, because otherwise I'm just fucking suicide. But I thought a 10 would be fun, because it's not too bad. 3 dice, he's got a decent chance. Hindsight, when it came to the time, I was actually very worried that he was going to make it, because he was making a lot of high rolls. But it was a pretty fun thing to do. In movement to bottom, I moved my Sword Masters back a little bit, just so we have a nice little corral there for these guys to move into. And hopefully it'll all work out. So another Soul Quench goes off, and another Colwyn Knight dies, because Soul Quench is not much good when you're shooting at someone who's got 1+ armor save. And then I cast a Walk Between Worlds on my Frost Phoenix, just to give him a bit more of an angle. So maybe I'll be able to get into the back of these guys if they go through, depending on what happens. But I also wanted to get a Pippa Ward save as well on my Spearman, just in case, I don't know, just in case something weird happened. So Dark Elf turn 6, and Dave charges straight into the Reavers, and he says, I'm going to try and overrun. So yeah, fair enough. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it works out. But unfortunately for Dave, it does not. Reavers, of course, get mullered, but these guys roll the dice and get a 9. Very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. But now, of course, he has got 3 units probably going to come down his throat, so it should be an interesting final battle. So High Elf turn 6, and it's charge, charge, charge. Rarely do we see the High Elves charging so much, but this is what we were kind of working to. It is the final turn, so it is putting all my eggs in kind of one combat, but I mean, it's the only chance I would have had against all these guys anyway, unless I was getting Seer and Doom off every turn with 2 dice. But yeah, this should be pretty good, so we've got a lot of combat going on. I decided to throw a bit of magic out there for my guys and cast a Hand of Glory on these, just to give them an extra bit of weapon skill. So we'll be hitting on 3s rather than 4s because the weapon skill is 5. It will make a big difference, especially with their armor saves and things like that. So the more hits we get, the more wounds we can get in there, and that's the main thing. And there's the remnants of the combat. I seem to have forgotten to take one earlier on, but that's all we need to see anyway. So what happened was that we killed a hell of a lot of guys. Malice and I think his BSB were still left, and a couple of his guys. You probably think he had 5 guys left at the end of it, and we had only lost 3. He hadn't killed any sword masters at all because I made my 6th ward save for him. If no, they hadn't got a ward save. Yeah, I made an armor save because he was just using a normal guy who was strength 4, and I had a 6 save, and I made that. Took a wound off my Phoenix, but they were rolling on double 1s. They failed. They fled, but we couldn't catch them. They rolled a 10, and we rolled a 9 on 2 guys, and a double 1 on the fucking sword masters because they're useless. But BSB is dead because they fled. Standard is dead as well. So unfortunately, we haven't caught the main unit. We lost a lot of points, but we won the game. So good stuff. And that's the end of the game. So, thoughts on the game. To be honest, I only gave Dave a day to create himself a Swedish Comp list, and he just had a lot of models there, so he just picked whatever he had. I don't think he'd be using it like this if he was, because he had no chaff and he was just getting led around by the nose. It was a good game for me because I was able to kind of work out what I needed to do with Swedish Comp and how to use chaff a bit better as well. But apart from that, I'm afraid it wasn't a great report for you guys, so sorry about that. Hopefully now, over the next month, and probably month, I think it's a month and a half, we have Troll Slayer coming up, and it's 2,200 points Swedish Comp, so there will be quite a few more games coming on using this style. I'm going to be changing between probably 3 different army lists. We'll have to buy some new models probably as well because of the scale of what you need to do. And it's going to be quite interesting. It's going to be a hard time frame to paint these models for it too, but it's an interesting thing to do, and I think report wise it'll be quite interesting to see how the army list evolves and how hopefully my play kind of evolves as well, because I'm not great, but I need to be better if I'm going to be playing the tournament. And let's see how it goes. If you got any comments, any ideas, or what you think I should really be doing with my army, let me know, because I would like to come within the top half of this tournament if I can, rather than languishing down the bottom end. I suppose having fun is the main thing, but I would like to do half decent if I can. So listen, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.